When we last visited with Paul Tesi, aka Mega Retro Man, we were talking about his experiences in the Arcade Armageddon at the Seattle Retro Gaming Expo. This week, we not only look at the game, the competition, and the match that would make him gaming famous, we ask an unexpected question. If an explosion happens in a forest and nobody's around to hear it, did it ever really matter in the first place? Welcome to part 2 of Taking Down the Tetris King, here on A Gamer Looks at 40. So yeah, let's kind of move forward. So 2016, You were saying you were involved with setting up and actually organizing the Armageddon. You were helping out with that with that process. Was that around the time when you started with playing Tetris, or were you doing that before?
Tetris.
Because what I want to kind of go on maybe is the road to your championship run at in 2019. At TCWC. Thank you. Sorry. No,
CTWC.
Acronyms are not my friend.
That's okay.
CTWC. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see.
So what was the first time you played? I mean, obviously you probably played Tetris early on.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, and please correct me if I'm wrong, competitive Tetris is done on NES Tetris. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. For the CTWC, they use NES Tetris.
Right.
A lot of my Tetris experience was done on Game Boy Tetris.
Yeah, cool. Same here.
Yeah, so but I never really played it to a level of competitiveness. It was just something just for me to just chill and play something. It was kind of like a cool down game. It's like, I'll play this just for kicks. If I top out, whatever. Let's see. When did I first try out for the CTWC? Not a lot of people know this because I try not to. I usually just say that I never did it, but I actually tried in 2014. The problem was I didn't know you could retry. I thought it was just you get one try and that's it.
Okay.
So I paid the entry fee and tried to play the game. They had it start at level 18, which at that time I was not familiar with starting at level 18.
Wow.
18. I topped out almost immediately.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was discouraged.
Sure.
So I just up and left.
Yeah.
And pretend like it never happened.
Yeah. Now, just to provide a little context, when you start a game of Tetris on basically anything, Game Boy, Nintendo, etc., you can pick a starting speed 0 through 9. 0 being slow as possible, 9 being pretty darn quick. When played competitively, contestants start at 18. That's crazy. I don't know a human being alive who's seen level 18 natively on their system. That's like being dropped into the middle of a busy highway with your wheels spinning 100 miles an hour, as opposed to carefully taking the on-ramp. That's why there's on-ramps. You don't do that. And there's a reason why vanilla Tetris won't let you do that. Paul Tesi found out exactly what that feels like the hard way.
2013, I attempted once and just stopped because I thought it was only one attempt that we got.
Gotcha.
In 2014, I tried again and realized that I am nowhere near the level of these guys that are playing right now. So,
right.
And I still didn't qualify. So then 2015, I didn't try to qualify.
Okay, so you didn't.
But
enter. Okay.
yeah, but what happened from not participating in that was this was at the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, where the CTWC is normally held live. I was in the middle of a 1990 NWC tournament. And, I was just in line, playing, this is for score. They kind of foobarred the tournament a bit by only setting it to like 5 minutes rather than the full 6 minutes and 21 seconds.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, they messed that up. So I had to play the game differently than what I was used to. At that time, I had ran into and met Thor Ackerland. Now, if you know who that is, he is the winner of the 1990 Nintendo World Championships back in 1990.
I knew that name sounded familiar. Yeah, I remember. Yeah. I remember, like almost like yesterday. I remember seeing his face in Nintendo Power.
Yes.
Ackerland. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I ended up running into and meeting him for the very first time.
That's cool. How was that experience?
Yeah. Oh, he was super chill.
Cool.
He was very nice. Very nice guy. Actually just reached out to him not long ago. Let's see. And so he and I were standing next to each other playing 1990 NWC, and I was just starstruck.
Yeah.
That I just like totally forgot that I was playing. No, it's like, I don't care about this run. I don't care. I have other attempts that I can do.
Yep. Yeah. So savor the moment. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you should.
So on top of that, I also ended up meeting Vince Clemente, who is the coordinator of the CTWC. He ended up watching me play the NWC because he was in line, trying his luck on it too. And he's like, and he kind of pulled me aside along with Robin Mahara, who was the third place winner of the 1990 NWC back in 1990.
Wow.
They both kind of pulled me aside and was like, hey, you're not bad at Tetris. I'm like, oh, thank you. He's like, and they're like, are you competing in the CTWC this year? I'm like, no.
No.
He's like, really? Why not? You should. I'm like, no, that's okay.
Didn't go well.
No, I didn't even tell him that I tried previously.
Sure not. Yeah, of
no,
course.
I just told him I'm not ready for that.
Right.
Because see the difference between playing Tetris on the 1990 NWC and playing Tetris for CTWC is, depending on the score that you end with on Super Mario Brothers, is a fixed piece set for Tetris. It's not random. So when I play the game, I end Super Mario Brothers with a score of 10,400.
Gotcha.
And what that does is it gives me a fixed piece set.
Piece. Okay, there we are. Piece. Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what I got. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. A fixed block set.
That's already there that's already there.
Yeah, so every time I end Super Mario Brothers with 10,400, I know I'm going to get the same pieces.
Oh, that's so interesting. So it's not a random. Okay, so that's why you're saying it's not randomized. It's based on your score for the core.
It's fixed.
Wow. Now, if the better score you get, do you get improved or better odds on Tetris, or how's that? Or is it just this is just a set you get based on that score, and there's no real benefit
So, funny enough, a gentleman named Rich Ambler, who happened to be second place in the 1990 NWC in 1990.
We got the trifecta now.
Yeah, so I now know all three of the top three players.
That's rad.
So,
that's cool.
So when I was speaking to him, and he was dropping all sorts of NWC knowledge to me because he knew that I played and was at the time trying to break the 4 million barrier, which he had already done. So he told me that the first 30 pieces on Tetris are going to be different depending on the score you get on Super Mario Brothers.
Okay.
After the 30 pieces, all the pieces you get afterwards are the same. Doesn't matter what score you had. And I'm just like, I don't know if I believe that, but I'm going to try that. So I literally made a sheet. I looked back at one of my videos, that I did for for NWC, and I said, okay, for 10,400, the first 30 pieces, I counted them out, and then I think I did just the next 10 to 15 pieces after that.
Okay.
So then I ended Super Mario Brothers on with a different score than 10,400, like maybe 10,003 or 10,005. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Counted out 30 pieces, and then obviously I made a video of this.
Sure.
So I can look back on it rather than do it in real time.
Sure. Yeah.
And then so I look back on the video and I'm like, okay, count out 30 pieces. Okay. And then the next 10 to 15 pieces I count out and check to see what blocks they are, and they matched.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. That blows my mind. That's that.
Yeah.
What?
As like I never would have guessed that until he brought it up, and I'm just like I said, I'm like, I don't know if I want to believe that, but nah, he was right.
Wow.
Only the first 30 pieces are affected in depending on the score you end with on Super Mario Brothers.
That's crazy. So you have this information, and you were encouraged by the one of the greatest NWC players in the world, the original Victor. Hey, why aren't you doing CTWC? Like, why aren't you?
Sorry, he didn't ask me, but the coordinator of the coordinator,
I'm sorry,
did.
But that's like, so coordinator asked like, hey, why aren't you playing? So did that kind of encourage you? Like, hey, maybe I should give this a shot.
Yeah.
Cool.
It encouraged me to, sit down and try and get better. So I ended up doing so. Then the next year, I attempted to qualify, and I had a score that was within the qualifying placement.
Yeah, the range.
Mm-hmm, yeah, the window. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and then they only take the top 32 at that time.
Okay.
And at the last hour of qualifying, I was sitting at 31 and 32. So, people were improving their scores, and I'm just like, I can't improve my score, but here we are, I'm sitting at number 32.
Yeah.
Then, and then at the last 10 minutes of qualifying, I'm still at the 32nd spot. And then I find out afterwards somebody had bumped me off.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I ended up placing 33rd.
Oh.
And not qualifying for the 2016 event.
The 16. Okay, this is the 16. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then so I was like, okay, it's whatever, and Vince, the coordinator that I spoke to, he's like, dude, I'm sorry. I was really hoping that you'd, be able to get in this year. And I'm like, yeah, it is what it is. I guess I'll just try again next year. He's like, I think you'll be fine next year. So the next year I ended up qualifying. I think I qualified at number 30 or 28.
Nice.
No, 30. It was number 30.
Improvement.
Because I ended up facing the third seed, and he wiped the floor with me.
Yeah, so, it happens. But you're improving though. As you're moving forward every year, you're kind of getting better and better.
Yes.
Awesome. That's
so
cool.
Yeah. So what was it 2000? That was 2017.
Yeah,
2018 rolls around, and then they changed the rules a bit, and they what they did was they started using a fixed block set now. So what we would do is we would enter in a code. Me and my opponent, we would get the same piece sets.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So we started doing that, which once now that I thought about it, I was like, that makes things so much more fair, rather than having to use our own Tetris carts.
I agree with that. That's actually really good. Yeah, it's a level playing field.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't do the online competitions due to COVID-19 for 2020 and 2021, was because they aren't giving the same piece sets to anybody up until the top 8.
Okay.
So I'm just like, no, because I don't want to be at that point where I get screwed on some pieces where my opponent is having the greatest piece set of all time.
Sure.
And here I am, I can't make lemonade out of lemons.
Yeah, and they've already fixed that issue, right? It sounds like that with this addition of everyone's going to get the same piece set at the beginning. It's a fair thing, and now to kind of throw that out and say, well, because of COVID, I can see what you're saying. All right, you're just gonna have to turn your card in and just turn it on, and hope for the best. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. That's unfortunately how it happened the last 2 years. But
yeah, COVID.
So going back to 2018, we started using a fixed block set, which, again, that makes me very happy. That's a thing now. Yeah. So I ended up being in top 40, which I had to do a 0 round.
Now, just so we have a little bit of context, I didn't know this going in, so I figured I'd share it with y'all. A 0 round is essentially a play-in round. Paul was in top 40, but he was not in the final 32, so he had to play an extra match just to make it into the main tournament bracket. Just a play-in round. Just want to make sure that was clear, as you'll hear that term a lot through the rest of the show, and a little Tetris music never hurt anybody.
I ended up winning that match. That was my first CTWC victory.
Nice.
And then the next round, I had to face a gentleman named Corion, or he goes by Corion. And I had known about him for, since the year before. And he's the guy that brought in the hyper tapping method to Tetris, to competitive Tetris, which with my playstyle puts me at a huge disadvantage.
Sure. So, that has to do with the finger placement. Is that right? Because I've seen that in some of these things I've watched. It's how you attack the... Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, tighten up your thumb, your wrist, your arm, and just, you just shake vigorously with your hands. But I personally can't do that.
Sure.
I mean, I used to be able to at one point, but, with the pains that I've dealt with in my hands and fingers, it's impossible for me to do it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So was that the first year that was kind of introduced, that technique, and then
2016 was when it was introduced.
Okay. So this is 2018 now, where you've played into their top 32. How did that go then?
I lost both rounds. I won my 0 round against Kristen, who'd been in the tournament a few times. And then going against Corion, I was just like, okay, well, really the only thing I have to do is just keep up with the guy, which I did, the first round. And then at that time, my post 19 game was not all that strong. I mean, I can kind of do it, but it was not consistent. So I was just like, all right, I'm just going to have to hope for the best on this. So I ended up topping out at level 20 level 20. Okay. And then, I'm sorry. That was the second round. The first round I topped out early because I was greedy. Yeah, that I hate to admit that, but my play style in Tetris is very greedy. I will stack and stack and stack and keep that well open until I get a line. And since that year, it's just like, okay, I really need to stop that. So after that, I started playing a lot more often. At that point, I had a 900 something odd high score, like a very low 900,000 score.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on my way to maxing out the game for the first time.
Okay.
Which, at that time, maxing out Tetris was kind of a big deal because very few people had done it.
Mm-hmm.
So, then beginning of 2019, I ended up getting my first max out. And,
nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So, and then between my first time and the 2019 event, I had maxed the game like 20 times.
Wow. So you've really improved over a course of, like 3 years. You've really been going hard at Tetris and maxing out just to make sure. It basically means you've exceeded, you've not quite beaten, because can you beat Tetris? Is that what maxing out would be akin to?
Maxing out is basically capping the score at 999,999. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
But now there's a Game Genie code to where you can uncap it, and the score will keep going into hexadecimals.
Oh man, you have to know hexadecimal to figure out your score. My score is 1D77F.
Actually, no, it not so much 1D, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Usually, if we end up passing, all nines, it'll say like A25322, whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's where we're at now. But I didn't at that time. I didn't use the Game Genie code to figure out what my actual score would have been if I had had it. I just kept it as a pure, all nines.
Yeah, man.
So
that's amazing. So 20 times is really, you're now getting extremely proficient. When we get to the 2019 CTWC, where did you place initially in that round of 32? Or it was 40 something at that point, right?
Yeah, we ended up doing a 0 round again. Right. At the time, I had a number 30 seed.
Okay.
I think.
So kind of right around where you've always been. Like, it seems like that's kind of where you landed on the last few of these. Okay.
Yeah, I ended up qualifying with a score higher than than I've ever qualified with.
Yeah. Right.
I qualified with like a 760,000.
Impressive.
But yeah, and it could have been higher. I do believe it could have been higher, because I had during my qualification time, people could see me play during my qualification because it was streamed.
Right.
And so, people would be like, "Oh my God, he's at a really good pace," blah 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 blah. Which, yeah, I was. There were times I had a really good pace. Let's see. Oh, I seeded 29th.
Okay. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I could have had. There were moments where I could have easily maxed my score and be in top 8. So,
was that a conscious decision, like a tactical kind of thing? Like, hey, I'd like to come in a little of a higher seed, or I'm not sure what like a 28th, 29th, and that, or well, I guess that wouldn't be really a tactical advantage. I'm just curious.
No, it was not choice? Tactical. No,
okay.
It was me playing. Like I said, it was me playing greedy.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go.
And trying nothing. Trying for nothing but Tetrises.
Just swinging for home runs.
I didn't. Yeah. Where I didn't need to.
Right. You could have played more strategically. Okay.
Oh yeah. I could have played much safer and still most likely breaking top 16, top 20.
Sure.
Easily.
Sure.
But so yeah, it's just that's what it was.
Right.
I ended up again playing a 0 round. So end up playing this other kid who I had never heard of before, and beat him the first 2 rounds. And then they announced that, oh yeah, I guess so. The winner of this match faces Jonas Neubauer, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Jonas Neubauer. If you play or follow competitive Tetris, Jonas equals legend. Coming into the 2019 Classic Tetris World Championships, Jonas had won the event 7 times and placed second twice. He had never finished lower than that. He was, quite simply, the greatest Tetris player in the world. But in 2019, Jonas was coming off a hard loss in the 2018 finals against Joseph Saleh, one of the pioneers of the new hyper-tapping style. While many Tetris pundits thought Jonas' style was going the way of the dinosaur, he felt confident on another run to the finals, as did everybody else on that stage. You played against him was it for the championship? Was he the guy?
No, this was round 1.
Wow. Okay, so the famed round against Jonas was just the first round of the competition. Wow. Okay. So, but this is pretty high profile now because you're facing off against this master of the game. I want to kind of get into this moment a little bit and really see if I can feel what this feels like vicariously.
Okay.
What were your emotions walking into that? Like, was it nerves? Did you feel confident because you knew you were playing well? You knew you could top out, but you just didn't. How did you feel kind of walking into that match with Jonas?
So that morning I had made a tweet saying that, okay, this is going to be one of the biggest matches I'm ever going to have in CTWC. I'm going to be facing against the 7-time champion. And, and I just said what I intend on doing, which was, play well, try and not top out, and do my best to not make this match easy for him. So, yeah, and going into the match, when they called us up, because normally with such a gap in seeds, usually what they'll do, because it's not so competitive, quote unquote, they would have those over on the side station and not on the side stage, not on the main stage.
Of course, right? Because it's not the close,
it's
4 against 5 or something.
Yeah, it's bound to not be competitive.
Sure. Not supposed to be, right? Number 2 is supposed to beat number 28, right? I get that totally.
Yeah, supposedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah, you would think with the odds of based off qualifiers.
Right.
But yeah, no, they put us on the main stage. And I was just like, oh well, okay then. Cool.
Can someone please find Jonas Neubauer? If he does not make it to the stage in the next 30 seconds, he is disqualified and he forfeits his spot from the competition. Please block his way so that he may not make it to the stage. In shocking fashion, Jonas has been... No, he won't be disqualified. Casual hug there for Jonas and Mega Retro Man. May we remind you, however, that Mega Retro Man went into pro wrestling mode yesterday and called you out on stage after making it to this round. So you've got heat with him, sir.
Jonas is used to easier matches in round 1, but Paul Tesi has maxed out the game 20 times in the past few months. He's really upped his game over the past year, so this isn't going to be a squash.
Paul Tesi, one of the regular contributors to the Classic Tetris Twitter account as well. People have been monitoring his progress as he went for personal bests all throughout the year. And he has been posting his progress and been doing very, very well. So he is definitely ready for this contest here. And really, if there's anyone to test yourself against on this great stage, it's that guy to his left.
That's the hurdle you want. 2 thumbs up. All right. In 3, 2, 1, Tetris!
Was I nervous? Absolutely. I tried not to show it.
Sure.
But I was just like, okay, I just, I know how to play this game. I know what I need to do.
Right.
So, just do it. Our first game was, I thought it was a really good game. I was on a good pace for even potentially maxing out. I'm looking back on what I did before topping out. Yeah, I made a bad choice in placing a block where I did, like a square block. I probably should have put it over on the far left, but I didn't, which caused me to have my left side open for pieces, but it was going to be ridiculously hard to get it over there because of the speed and my play style. Because my stack at the time was so high that I would have been very lucky to get a majority of pieces over to the far left. So I ended up spiring my stack down the middle of the stack, hoping that maybe a line will show up. And a line eventually did show up, but it was too far gone that I wasn't going to be able to do anything with it.
Gotcha. It was just kind of too messy at that point. And
yeah, the stack was way too high that that line wasn't going to go anywhere.
Paul's in trouble. He needs a line piece now.
And it won't come, and that's it. The line piece came a little too late. And now Jonas needs 74,000 points in order to take game number 1. Jonas is perfectly happy to just chip away at his own pace here. There is no pressure right now. All he needs to do is just get 41,000 points. His play area is low. Anyone needs to take a bathroom break, go ahead and do it now. He'll still be playing by the time you get back.
Now so here's the question then with the way this works. Even though you top out, if your opponent tops out before they beat your score, then you still win. So there's still an element. There's still an element of suspense there. It's like not like you top out and you lost. That's the max score you can achieve, and now your opponent has to get above that, which I think is so tense and cool, right? It's not just someone loses. Someone still has to beat you even though you've lost early. So that could be an advantage of getting all those Tetrises and playing aggressive. And just, please stop me if I'm saying something stupid. You could say, I want to get my score as high as possible before topping out, making it more difficult for my opponent to surpass that. Or you play more conservatively and stay there longer. So I'm starting to get the feel for it. So first round, you topped out, and Jonas was able to take the first round?
Yeah, he played so conservatively. He wasn't even going for Tetrises. Like, he would build up like he was going to.
Interesting.
But then he would trick everybody and be like, nah, I ain't gonna do it.
This is the equivalent of Tetris torture right now for Mega Retro Man. He's just watching this, and he's forced to watch this. Like, death by 1,000 cuts is what's happening right now for Mega Retro Man. It's like he's watching the inevitable.
Oh, nice.
He's just like,
he's laying it on.
Seriously, he's like, should I do it? Nah, I'll just wait a little while longer. No problem.
That's kind of awesome.
All right, come on, 60.
There
you go. There's the points. I think Jonas set the record for the longest play after a top out ever at CTWC history there.
Interesting. So do you think there was a little bit of hubris there? Like, kind of like, I'm not trying to cast shade on Jonas, of course, especially considering everything that's happened since. Obviously not. But I'm curious. I mean, because it is a lighter match, right? This is early in the round and maybe early in the competition. This is an unexpected thing, right? So, yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But he was playing conservatively.
So he just lined out majority of the majority of catching up to my score, and I think even to this day is the longest amount of time that anybody's had to catch up to a score, just because of how conservative he was playing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So he wasn't going for Tetrises whatsoever. He just stuck with singles, doubles, and triples.
Just playing his game. Okay.
Yeah, just, and one of the other players that was playing over on the main stage was like, dude, just get a Tetris. And he's like, I'm warming up. Nah, it's okay.
Wow. Huh,
so, I'm just like, yeah, that's funny. So he eventually catches up to my score and takes that round. We start the next round. It's going okay. I jump ahead because he doesn't like to press down. I do. And what pressing down does is just makes the pieces go down faster, right? And gives you some extra points.
Oh, you do get extra points
top
for
of that. Yeah,
kind of slamming them down. Okay.
Yeah. But me pressing down on NES Tetris is habit at this point.
Interesting. It's just how you play.
Well, yeah, and it's no thanks to 1990 NWC.
We bring it right back. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
of course. Sure.
Because I'm constantly having to press down on that game. It has become a second nature for me to do that anytime I play NES Tetris.
That's
so anytime I'm not pressing down, it just feels weird.
Yeah, and probably because of time, right? Because the Tetris in that is time, so you got to be fast.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas this one, it's not timed. I can take my time.
Right.
But yet I don't. It's a second nature. It's a second nature thing. I'm trying to break that habit.
Yeah, you don't. No one tells A-Rod no one tells Jeter how to mess with the swing.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So you ended up taking the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah. So we're in the middle of the playing. We haven't even made it past level 19. This is like in the middle of level 18, because we do level 18 starts. I think at that point we had like 70, 80 something lines in. And then suddenly I hear the commentators yell out, "Oh my God, Jonas topped out!" And I'm just like, what the hell? Like, wait, what?
He's
really?
By 62,000. Narrows the gap there.
A 25-piece drought is 100 blocks. That's half the board. You have to burn. Oh, Jonas!
Oh my gosh, Jonas has topped out, and that will be a game 3. So Paul Tesi takes a game.
Look at his face.
I have this look of shock. And when I looked over at his screen, and sure enough, he topped out. And I'm just like, oh my God, I was given a freebie by the 7-time champion. Oh my God.
And you can hear the commentators?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can hear them.
Wow. Okay. I was curious about that. Like, can you actually hear them?
Yep, I can hear them.
Now, was this the second? Sorry, was this the second? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
So that was one of the fun things about doing it, because one of the commentators is a good friend of mine, and during that first round where I topped out first. Mm-hmm. Because I was doing so well that first game, going into level 19 with a really good score at the time. Mm-hmm. He's just like, Paul is playing the game of his life against the greatest player. No pressure, dude. I yell out, "Thank you." He's like, "You're welcome."
And this is game 2, right? Is this what we're
that was game 1, but game 2.
topped out early, and you were able to.
And my score was already ahead of his, so I didn't have to do anything. I could just stop playing and call it good. Third round, I wasn't playing as clean as I could have. There was a misdrop that I did that I had to kind of clean up, and I eventually did. But what I didn't do was get my stack built up normally to where, okay, I need to start building my stack to where my well is on the right, like how I normally do. Mm-hmm. But it just the pieces that I was getting just ended up not being ideal, and therefore creating a giant mess on my board with lots of holes in the lower half of my board. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, it just kind of looks like Swiss cheese. So I'm just like, okay, then this kind of sucks. And I know we're getting to the point where, 19's going to be coming around. Right. I'm not paying attention to how many lines we have at the moment, but because I'm focusing on my board, which is it's an absolute disaster.
Yeah, shambles.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to do what I can, make the best of it, and just not top out. And then suddenly I'm hearing Jonas had topped out again.
Oh, in a rough position here now.
Mega Retro Man with a Mega Spire.
Jonas
needs a line piece. He's going to be tough to burn.
Oh, my gosh. Jonas flirting with fire right now, needing a line piece desperately, and that is it. Oh my gosh.
It's not over yet.
Oh my word. Come on. Mega Retro Man needs 44,000 points, and he can eliminate Jonas in round 1 of this tournament.
And at that point, I had a lower score than he did. Mm-hmm. So it was my turn to play catch up. And so I was like, again, my board is messy as hell. And so what do? I do the stupid thing. My board is like 2/3 of the way up from the bottom. And I start building for a Tetris.
He needs a line piece.
He's going to dirty this up. Are you kidding me?
He needs a drop. This could be it. He needs less than a Tetris, and Jonas is out of this tournament. Come on, Mega! He's getting the line. 16,000 to go.
No, yeah, okay.
That was, looking back on that, it was, and everybody else that watched that was probably wondering, what the hell is he thinking? And look, at the time I was just like, okay, I know he topped out. My hand is shaking, my leg is shaking because nerves have basically taken control of my body.
Yep. And you're playing with muscle memory right now. That's why you're not even thinking. You're just playing.
Yeah, at this point I'm playing. Now, blessed be that my leg and my hands were shaking, because there was one piece that I should probably not have gotten over to the far left, and I did.
Wow.
Because if I didn't get it over, oh man, it would have been, I would have been a world of trouble, and I probably wouldn't have, I probably wouldn't have been as good of shape as I was in. Not to say that I was in good shape.
So you think you feel like the nerves helped, because I've watched it a couple times just to spoiler it. Watch that match. I found it on Twitch.
Match.
But yeah, I found the last 3 minutes or so. And
okay,
do you want to take a guess on how long it took between when Jonas topped out and when you actually surpassed him? How long do you think that was? Just take a guess.
Oh my gosh.
I calculated it, so.
Oh my gosh.
I'm curious. Just take
a minute and a half?
Close. 1 minute and 13 seconds. It was a minute 13.
Yeah.
Between when Jonas topped out and when you surpassed him. And I saw exactly what you were talking about. You start building this Tetris, and the commentators are losing their minds. So let me just kind of put it again. I want to be here.
Sure.
You can hear the commentators. They go, Jonas is topped out. You now know it's all on you. This is a point now where everything is on you. It's not his mistakes. He's complete. He's finished. It's up to you to perform to get to that next level. And your leg is twitching and your hands are twitching, and I can see you're breathing. Like I can see in the video, you're like you're so in the zone. And now he's watching you. Like he's sitting there just watching you. I can't imagine what's going through his mind, just waiting for this. And you cleared that board so well. I mean, there's one point where you hit that, like the last double. And tell me how you felt when you hit that last double. You knew you surpassed them. You pop off. What was in your mind when that happened?
And now to 2,700.
2 more lines.
2 more lines will do it for Mega Retro Man. Can he do it?
1.5 lines. This'll do it.
And that's it! Jonas is out of the tournament in shocking fashion. And look at what it means for Mega Retro Man.
Oh, there was a lot of things.
I'm sure there was.
There was so much going on just inside me. It was, oh my gosh. Relief was probably the biggest one of them. Oh boy. Just excitement, relief, not gonna lie, a little bit of sadness.
Okay.
Just because, Jonas is the face of the classic Tetris scene.
Right.
And, I'm the first person ever to keep him out of the finals. He has been in the finals every single year until 2019.
Wow.
And of all people, I was the person that took him out.
That's just
somebody that probably shouldn't have. If anybody was expecting to take him out, nobody was expecting me to do it. I guarantee it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know that I had, other people that were, rooting me on from the very beginning. But at the same time, that's a very, very small percentage of people, the ratio between people cheering me on and people cheering Jonas on is uncomparable.
right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean,
because he has that monster following. Everybody knows who this guy is. This is Jonas Neubauer. This is the 7-time champ. This is the greatest Tetris player of all time. And then there's me.
but you were able to do it, man. You were able to do it. I can't imagine. And that's interesting you say sadness, right? As being a part of that emotional whirlwind at that moment. That's interesting. Kind of knowing where you were in that moment of history. Let's be honest. It was a moment of history. And knowing the gravity of what you accomplished and what that meant, I think is really, really cool to know that was something in your brain seconds after you achieved that, to realize that was just part of the whole emotional ball of crazy that was going on. I mean, yeah. It's interesting. I want to go back to this moment real quick and then maybe go back to that. You bellowed. You let out a scream. I don't even... you bellowed like a Norse god. You gave him a big hug and he gave you a hug too. Like, I think he understood what happened too. You could tell from just the video I'm watching. He knew the moment as well. And he was extremely gracious.
Yeah. Jonas,
he seemed, at least from that perspective.
Jonas has always been a real stand-up guy. Was he had lost the year before to the 16-year-old, and in the face of defeat, he was super generous, super gracious. He realized that this might be the time where youngsters come in and take over.
Wow.
So
sure.
and then 2019, we hugged, and I'm not gonna lie, I told him I was sorry.
Wow.
I was glad that I was able to do it, but at the same time, I felt so bad, and I wish people would, would hear my end of the feelings of, what I was, what I had said to him. And after we hugged and I yelled, that was basically me just getting all the emotions out of me.
Yeah.
I didn't know any other way to do it.
No.
That's just what happened. And it calmed me down.
Yeah.
Then it finally set in that, like, holy crap, I actually beat Jonas Neubauer. Holy crap.
Yeah, and you're allowed to enjoy that, Yeah.
Yeah, and and at the same time, I still had more Tetris to play, but I felt like I had just won CTWC.
An unbelievable turn of events, but well-deserved for someone who has grinded the game all year long. And it is Paul Tesi, Mega Retro Man, who moves on in the tournament and eliminates perhaps the greatest classic Tetris player of all time in Jonas Neubauer. Wow!
I do want to go back to you. Did you stay in contact with Jonas after that? Did y'all get to know him at all, or was that kind of your only interaction?
Yeah, we talked here and there.
Okay.
It wasn't like a daily thing, a weekly thing. It was just he had his own thing going on, and I have my own stuff going on. But
sure.
Every now and
Correct.
again, I'd jump in on his streams and say, "Hey, man, how you doing? How are things?" And then everybody, I come in, everybody, and I say something, everybody's like, oh, the Jonas Slayer's here. And that's what I was for a full year. I was
I can imagine.
the Jonas Slayer. I was the King Slayer, the Monster Slayer, etc., etc.
How did that make you feel? How did that make you feel when you walk into a stream of his, here comes the Jonas Slayer? How did that make you feel?
A few things, really. Just like some of it was, all right, let's not call me that here on his stream, okay?
Yeah, I can see that.
It feels a little disrespectful to him.
Sure.
In his own channel. I mean,
right.
if you guys come and do that to on my channel and be like, it's the Jonas Slayer, hey, I'll just be like, hey, how you doing?
Right, and just disregard it.
And, I mean, and there's that little hint of being powerful.
Sure. Yeah.
Just fair. Like, be like, the little hint of ego, and just like, yep, that's me. Yeah, I was the guy.
We're human beings, that is always going to be a piece of it, right? And then the reason I ask it, I'm not trying to make it like a leading question, because just in talking with you for the last 2 hours, and thank you for going so long. I mean, this story is incredible, and I'm not stopping this until you tell me to stop.
Dude, I'm fine. I've got all night.
Cool, awesome, brother. Thank you. What I think is, in talking to you, and especially hearing how you've treated your friends in the past who were playing, and your heart for helping others play, I can't imagine you walking into his stream looking for the Jonas Slayer, moniker, right? I can't imagine that. But I do think it's interesting that you're acknowledging, it is a little cool to hear that, right? The ego feels good, but underlying it's just kind of like, all right, y'all, we know what happened. At least that's what I'm getting from kind of what we're talking about.
I mean, it was going to happen regardless.
Sure.
I would do, friendly competitions, friendly matches online, at another gentleman's channel. And even he would dub me as the Jonas Slayer, which is like, okay, I mean, this is what he does to hype up the player.
Sure.
And, because he treats these like, professional wrestling matches.
Gotcha. Yeah.
He is a Tetris commentator, but he's going to hype you up like you're a professional wrestler.
Right. It's like, yeah.
So anytime I play on his channel, he's like, here he is. He's the Jonas Slayer. Mega Retro Man.
You got like a coming out music like I am a real American.
Oh my God. Yeah. No.
So you didn't have much of a connection, but you'd pop into a stream, you'd hear, you'd be part of that conversation. Oh, here he is. Here's the guy who defeated him. How did you do for the rest of the competition? like you said, that was like the higher, like that felt like for you won. And that totally makes sense considering the gravitas of the situation. How did you do for the rest of the competition? You still have matches to do.
Yeah, I still had a match to do. I ended up losing the next round. The first round, or the first match game, whatever, I was on a tear that game. That game went really well. But like I had mentioned before about my play style, I play pretty greedy. And that's exactly what my downfall for that match was. I want to say I misshift. I did a misshift on a piece. And so it kind of put things in a bad spot and I didn't really recover. And on top of that, my fingers were hurting quite a bit. So it hurt to the point where I couldn't really move pieces anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of what's
interesting.
And that's another reason why I didn't do the online tournaments as well.
Sure.
Was because I was giving my fingers and my hands a rest because there was a moment where my fingers were hurting so bad that I couldn't pick up a controller anymore.
Wow.
I couldn't even hold it. It hurt to hold it.
How much time did you have between your Jonas match and your next match? Abouts. Yeah, whereabouts.
15, 30 minutes.
That's not a lot of time for your fingers to recover. Wow.
Yeah.
That's not a lot of time. I was hoping you would take an hour.
No,
15 minutes.
No. Shoot, I wish. I would have went and grabbed me something to eat at that point.
Right. Wow.
But
wow.
That's the one thing I make sure that I do is before the CTWC events, I make sure to go get me a huge breakfast. So that way
I can't imagine.
I'm not going hungry during the actual competition.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
But yeah, so my first game was going really well until my fingers just said, "Yeah, no, you're done this match." So if you ever see that match, you can see where just pieces just dropped straight down,
just dropping,
and didn't bother attempting to move them. That is why. That is what happened.
And I just want to pause on that for a moment because I think that's a piece of this, of even just esports in general, that people don't realize is a thing until you hear that kind of story where your fingers just failed you because you're tired, right? Because you're just physically exhausted. There is a physical component to this stuff. Like sitting there at attention, focused 100% on executing in a game, and your fingers and this doing these very precise small movements has to be just exhausting and draining. So it's very interesting to hear that's kind of why you kind of bowed out in that next round, just because for physical reasons, really. Like you said, that makes perfect sense. Man, my fingers are just tired. And people don't talk about that when they talk about esports. It's people sitting around playing video games. Well, no, these things are endurance tests. So that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Huh, that's a component.
Yeah. So, and then the next game, that was just me being just stupid greedy, and I stacked too high and I topped out. I have no other way of explaining it other than it's not because, I couldn't move pieces. No, I just got greedy.
Fair enough.
There's nothing else to it.
Right.
I just made stupid choices and not burn my stack when I should have.
Mm.
Yeah, that's all.
Hey, but it happens.
And that ended my 2019 run.
Despite his historic 2019 showing, Paul didn't compete in 2020 or in 2021. He decided to step back from the competitive Tetris scene due to some lingering hand issues he discovered in 2019, and the nature of the competition changed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, namely players getting to use their own carts. In short, Paul needed a break. Unfortunately, Jonas's story ended in tragedy. On January 5th, 2021, Jonas died from a sudden cardiac arrest. Nobody quite knows the reason or how it happened. His heart simply gave out. He was 39. But these days, Paul is slowly dipping his toe back into competitive Tetris. He's entered into a few local friendly competitions and is starting to get his game back together. He's also working on improving some of his current world records, including his record in Super Nintendo Ninja Warriors, and he'll be competing in the RGB High Score competition coming up on Twitch December 2nd through the 5th. But just before we hung up the phone on our nearly 2.5-hour conversation, I felt compelled to ask him one last question. Throughout this entire conversation, I've heard terms like best in the world or world record holder for a certain amount of time. When you hear the term best in the world and you know it's associated with something you've accomplished, what does that bring to you? What sort of emotion does that stir up when you hear best in the world at XYZ or champion? What does that make you feel like?
It's cool. Knowing that, like, my best friend and I were talking one night, and after I had what did I do? I just hit 5 million on the 1990 Nintendo World Championships. The first person to ever do it. And he and I were talking on the phone while I was on my way to work, and he had asked me, so, what does it feel like to be the best in the world at this? And, I was like, I mean, it's cool, but, this is kind of a niche following, I guess. Mm-hmm. This is not something. This achievement, as much as I would love to see it spread out on gaming articles, hey, this achievement was just done. This is the first person to have ever done it. This is a big thing. Unfortunately, it's only a big thing for those people who know it's a big thing. Being the best in the world at a specific game is great. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm the best in the world, but nobody knows it. It just very few people know it. It's not something that, like I said, gaming articles are going to share. Like if somebody breaks the Super Mario Brothers speedrun record, that's like the biggest thing in the world. Or the Donkey Kong arcade score record. Again, that's the biggest deal in the world. There's a very few number of game titles where they'll be like, oh my God, this is actually a really big deal.
Right.
And just Super Mario Brothers and Donkey Kong just happen to be two of them.
Sure. Yeah, but I would. Yeah. Go ahead.
But yeah, it's just. I mean, yeah, it feels nice. It really does. But at the same time, it's just like, but who's really gonna know that?
And I saw what I'm reading from that is kind of this muted pride. Like you understand the accomplishment and you're proud of the accomplishment, but you recognize that it's not Mario or Donkey Kong. I'm going to do something that I shouldn't do in interviewing. When you interview somebody, you should just stay out of it as much as possible. I'm not going to. I'm going to interject myself in here and tell you that even though nobody knows it, right? Even though it's a niche thing, it's a game maybe not many people know, you still accomplished something that no one else has ever done. And people have tried to do, and I would encourage you to not diminish that in your heart, not to get too cheesy about it. Like, don't diminish that. I think it's good and healthy to recognize. Listen, no one's stopping me in the supermarket. Hey, you're the NWC guy, but I do think you should feel that accomplishment because I think it's incredible that you get to say you're best in the world at somebody. It's not Mario or Donkey Kong, but you're still number one in the world at a game of which there are a limited number of. And that's freaking awesome, man. So
thank you.
Give yourself a little bit of that, man, because it's something really cool. Again, I've inserted myself into the interview and I apologize. But yeah, man.
That's fine.
Don't stick your nose at it because it's pretty amazing. We have been on quite the journey, haven't we? We started with DDR dance pads and local competitions, to the arcade Armageddon, to this Classic Tetris World Championship, to beating the greatest player in the world, to setting world records, to wondering, does any of it matter at all? If an explosion happens in the middle of a forest and no one is there to experience it, or worse, nobody is affected by the blast, did it really matter in the first place? And as you can tell from the moment I interjected myself in the poor man's interview after 2.5 hours, yeah, it does. I think it does. We are all the best in the world at something. Yes, this sounds like something you would see on like super late night TV. Buy my 18 DVD box set and I will teach you how to be a more actualized person. No, it's not that. We are. I honestly believe I am the best person in the world to father my son and my daughter. Real talk, today was a bad dad day for me. I was not a great dad today. But I still think I'm best equipped to do that job. And if you're thinking to yourself, there's nothing in my life I am the best at, I encourage you to think a little harder, maybe. If not best, then good. Really good at stuff. We're all really good at something. And just like Paul, with his world records and his accomplishments, and just like he shouldn't feel ashamed for feeling good about those things, let's take some time this week to just look back on that a bit. Be thankful. Thanksgiving. It's coming right down the corner. We have all things to be thankful for. And we're all pretty darn good at something. Let's try to take a minute this week to recognize that. If you've listened this far, then you are not only a super fan, you are a super friend. And you know what super fans and super friends do? They go on Apple Podcasts, they leave a rating, and they write a nice friendly review for yours truly, because not only does it help the algorithms and help just increase the exposure of the show, it makes little old me feel that much gooder about himself. But only, honestly, if it's earned. Seriously, only if it's earned. If it's not earned, then honestly, DM me on Twitter or reach out to me on agamerlooksat40@gmail.com and let me know what I could be doing better. And of course, all the social media stuff, that's all over the place. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone who's listening to us before Thanksgiving 2021. Hope you and yours have a fantastic day of food and family and friends and togetherness and football, and then passing out on the couch at 7 o'clock. That is how we do it here in the US of A. And if you're from outside the US of A, just hope you have a fantastic week if Thanksgiving is not in your traditions. And until next time, keep being the best.